Today, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Carl Levin, said he thinks the death of bin Laden reinforced the president's intention to move toward, quote, a robust reduction of U.S. troops from Afghanistan this summer. It's about time we got out of a long conflict that has resulted in the deaths of more than 1,500 American troops. Add that to the number of U.S. soldiers killed in Iraq, and you see that the supposed hunt for bin Laden in those countries has cost us more than 6,000 American lives. Not to mention that so far, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq have cost us $1.5 trillion. Joining me now is Robert Greenwald, director of the Brave New Films and producer of documentaries Rethink Afghanistan and Iraq for Sale, The War Profiteers. Robert, well, I know your opinion on this. We got some different opinions here a little earlier, but about what's the more effective way to go. But I want to focus on what again, in the future. So what do we do in Afghanistan going forward now that we've gotten bin Laden?
We do the sensible and sane and rational thing. We get the troops out as quickly as possible, and we work for the security of the United States, which does not mean this occupation. There's lots that we could do, Cenk, and you know it. There's enormous resources, enormous values that this country has. We are doing none of that every time we occupy another country and wind up being the enemy.
You know, Robert, some might say, hey, look, we were telling Afghanistan all along, hey, we're going to rebuild. It's the Pottery Barn rule. If you break it, you own it. And now if after getting bin Laden, we say, hey, see, you wouldn't want to be you. Doesn't that say, hey, we were never really serious about your country. We just had the objective of getting bin Laden, and that's why we're leaving?
Well, we're not rebuilding Afghanistan. I mean, I was there. When you get off the plane and you look around and you see on every block millions and millions of dollars being spent on military solutions, you see people starving, you see people without jobs and without education. It's outrageous to contend that we are there rebuilding them. We're not. We're destroying. And that's the great pain, and that's what's so profoundly wrong about this analysis is think about it. A country, you come in and you occupy another country. How do you expect them to then think you're friends and then think you're there to help the country? And the single biggest reason for the increase in the Taliban is our occupation. They're a nationalist organization, and they thrive on having an enemy who comes in and takes over.
Right. You know, I do want to mention one other point before we leave that I think not a lot of other people are going to talk about today. My God, I know you did a movie about it. My God, how much did we waste in Iraq? When you see that we got bin Laden in Pakistan, I don't know if there's anybody in the country who can tell us what in the world Iraq had to do with getting al-Qaeda and bin Laden.
Well, it didn't have anything to do with it. And, you know, in Afghanistan, there are more contractors than there are military. And the amount of money, the New York Times had a brilliant article about it recently, the hundreds of millions and ultimately billions of our tax dollars that are going to private contractors and are going to corruption is off the scales. And here we are worrying about, you know, paying firemen and policemen and teachers. It just profoundly is wrong. It's against the values, and it's against everything that we believe in.
All right, Robert Greenwald of Brave New Films, clear as always. Thank you for joining us tonight, Robert.